Hello, this is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. And like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest, and y'all know how I do. I'm gonna go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Coach Skeete. I'm the head women's basketball coach at Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas.
Thank you, Coach Skeete, for joining us. You ready to get into the questions?
I'm ready.
Coach Skeete, first, where are you originally from, born and raised?
I am originally from Fort Lauderdale, but I was born and raised in North Florida in the Panhandle area, so Malone, Florida, Bascom.
Okay, all right. So you said you're a basketball coach. So I'm first going to go back to the beginning. When did you get started in sports in your youth?
Off a dirt road, with my brother chasing him around. To the fact where we had like the old carts that tied to a tree, the milk carts, and we would
Okay.
shoot hoops in that, in the dirt, playing shoes, no shoes, and we obviously graduated to a goal, but yeah, I got my start very, very young.
All right, all right. Did you play any other sports besides basketball?
I tried and I just wasn't a fan. I didn't really enjoy running, even though people think I probably had the physique to run track. It wasn't really my comfort zone spot. And, I dabbled in softball a little bit, but a little bit more concerned with the ball hitting my face. So I went away from that. So basketball was really the only thing that I stuck to and I pursued.
Okay, all right. So what was basketball like for you? Probably say through middle school on to high school. Like, did you play on a competitive level? Did you do some traveling, basketball, AAU, or anything in your
No,
youth?
I never actually played AU at all. I was in just kind of a rural area at the time when my family moved, and it really was just nothing organized. I was just out there going, just playing and using and I just love the exert of being able to let out fire inside of me. Because I
Right.
think I was born with a lot of like fire and energy and it was just a good outlet for it. And so learning organized basketball was a challenge, but then understanding that it was more to the game than just running up and down began to intrigue me over the course of my career. And it really set the standard for who I am as a coach now. So where my basketball IQ could come and understanding angles and being a good point guard and being, in the side setting people up, it really became exciting to me to kind of be like the magician in the booth, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind
That's
of. Mm.
that's good. That's good. So I asked in high school, what were some high points as you look back? Do you have some highlights that you remember from playing basketball in high school?
I mean, yeah, being a winner, I mean, our school was traditionally really good, especially on the men's side, and historically they won a ton of state championships. And until that point, our girls had always been good, especially in the county and the state, but we never actually won. And I won the first, women's girls at the time state championship and the MVP and all of that stuff like that. And you know.
That's that's awesome. That's awesome. At what point in high school did you possibly have that dream or that goal to move on and play beyond just high school?
I mean, I don't know when it actually just clicked, for me to want to play and pursue more. Because again, it wasn't a lot of people going far from the area that we were in and making it. Um, and so, you know, once an opportunity presented itself, it made us work a little bit harder. But back in the day, like a college scholarship and having school paid for was like, you had made it to the pros.
Right, right,
Kind of
right.
where we were from, and so it was more of a grandiose. So the opportunity to do it when I saw myself being really successful, my senior year was it was a little bit more of a shock than anything.
All right. And so me doing my homework and everything, you went on to play in college. And so the first couple years of college, and I know the first school, where did you go right out of high school? I'll ask that question first. And then tell me about some of the things you were able to accomplish in your first stop right out of high school.
So I went to Gulf Coast, which is now Gulf Coast State College, and it was a 2-year school. And so we had a very successful run. I mean, we ended up winning a national championship.
Right.
I think we finished our careers there like 40 something and two. I think we lost maybe 1 or 2 games. Our whole, I know we went undefeated the national championship run. And I think we lost in the semifinals my nationally my first year. So we definitely had an illustrious career. That was a really great experience, learning to push and being coached by a legendary coach who's now in the WBCA Hall of Fame. Even from JUCO in Rooney Scoville, and just letting me see a woman master. It was something about going JUCO that really changed my perspective. On basketball, and one was my coach, obviously Coach Scoville, because that was the first time I was really coached by a woman head coach. And so she was powerful and she was phenomenal, and people respected her, and she was aggressive and authoritative. And it was the first time I had really seen something like that a woman could be in a place like that. And because prior to that, all my coaches my head coaches had been males. And so seeing her and being able to relate to her and seeing her relate in a different connection that she was able to grasp with the players was phenomenal. But also in the same conference, when we matched up, when we played a team that was in Tallahassee, Florida, at TCC, was something even more of a surprise, because there was a lady there named Coach Teresa. And she really shocked me because she looked like me.
Okay.
And I had never seen that, in person. You heard of the Vivian Stringers at that point, and, the Carolyn Pecks, but they were a little bit more like larger than life, like, they didn't necessarily look like me and my, but she did, and she was, sharp, and she was feminine, and she had an aura about her, femininity, and it was just, I was like, wow, and so it really, it set something off in me, because I always liked watching her up and down the sidelines, because she coached with a demeanor. And we give the Kim Mulkeys and all of that credit now, but she was my Kim Mulkey at the time.
Got you.
We beat her every time, so it did. It was still very, very cool to see that, and it just kind of let me know that's something that I really could achieve and I really could do.
And I think it's so awesome that you say that, because when you're able to even point back at seeing the coach there, and you said at TCC, correct? Right? You saw someone that looked like you and then encouraged you. And so our young people need to see that. When they see that, it many times shapes them in believing that there's hope to do something beyond where they're at.
I would correct you just slightly. They don't need to see it. It helps to see it, but
That's
it's
good.
not need, right? Because we can, and I say a bigger philosophy of mine is, we want to be seen because we want the rose to stop having to grow through the concrete, because the rose could become a rose bush if it was fertile ground. So yes, seeing it motivates and grow, but we don't want a building. You don't need it. If it's not there, then you be it. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't use it as just, I need to, because those aren't the only ways that we can survive. But it definitely increases our motivation too, because I can't say if I never saw her that I wouldn't get there, because God had a plan for me, but it was motivational in some of the times when I got there, to trust that I belong there and I could be successful there, if that makes sense.
That's good. And I appreciate you articulating that the way you did and making it clear, because I feel the same way you articulated it, because I've had my Monday morning thoughts that I do. I've spoken to groups where I'm always talking about, you're not a product of your circumstances. You're a product of your decisions. Be the change you want to see. Like, if you don't see it, then you be that change. So I'm glad that you make that correction and made that so clear that if you don't see it, you be it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Um, I think it would be good to guess that seeing those before you, did that encourage you as you continue? We're gonna go back to the ending of your college career, but did that have a big place in your desire to coach?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I am always led by I try to be led by the spirit. And
Okay.
so coaching, it was planting seeds in me. But when I'm a player and seeing like I could like to me, I love basketball so much. If I couldn't go where I couldn't keep playing. In me, I couldn't. I thought it would be hurtful to coach. I'm like,
Okay.
ain't no way I could go. I can't. If I can't play, I don't want to do the game. Like, if I can't be on the court, I don't. There's no way I could. But it was planting and it was growing inside. And the thing that I always say is a lot of people don't understand. You can't plant the seed and eat the apple overnight.
Wow.
So like the roots have to grow to tree. So like even though I saw it, I didn't know what I was seeing. God was
Got
planting the seed, and He didn't tell me He was planting it.
it.
Yeah, it was just growing inside of me, and
Wow.
as it grew inside of me, eventually when it was time, and which we'll get into towards the end of my college career, what happened, but then it was ready to blossom. But before then, I never thought I want to be a coach. I didn't just to me, if I couldn't play the way I loved it, it would sting to
Wow.
be away from it.
Wow. And is something just hearing it actually going through that transition with um my oldest son. He's currently in that process where he was finishing his career, had played football since he was 5 years old, now 22, and he was going through that process. And I would have conversations. I hope he's okay with me saying this, where he would talk about just wanting to clear his hands of the sport. Like if I'm not going to another level, I'm done.
Yeah,
And so he goes back to school. Officially he's done with classes, but he goes back just to take his graduation pictures. He lives in Jersey area, goes back to his school in Pennsylvania, and the coaches say, "Hey, we were just talking about you." Fast forward, they offered him a grad assistant position, and
wow,
so now he's a grad assistant. Where we go back a year ago, he was probably like, "When I'm done with the sport, I'm done with the sport. If I'm
yeah,
done playing." But he's enjoying it. And I'm watching him embrace it and be able to use his leadership skills to now help, other young people. So I love it.
yeah.
He didn't think it would happen. But again, it was a kind of a thing. I think knowing him and his heart and his faith, I think God opened some doors and he's really embracing it. So I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome. I want to ask this question. You touched on one thing earlier with not playing AU, and then you talked about going to a 2-year school first. And so I asked many guests, especially the basketball players, like how important it is. So I get to ask you, being that you didn't play, but I ask you as a coach now, how important is it for the young athlete that desires to play on a high level to get involved with traveling sports at AAU?
That is the answer to that is a little bit more complex because unfortunately, a lot of the AAU circuit is the AAU circuit instead of the grassroots circuit. And what do I mean by that? Like, traditionally it was created for experiences and time that high school couldn't really afford to put in. And maybe even a push that maybe the school systems wouldn't allow in other coaches, and to experience some of the best players from all around to play who are really serious in the off season to get better because it is the off season, right? Now, unfortunately, it's become a money scheme. And so there's not a ton of training going on anymore. Kids are hopping from one tournament to the next, and if this coach don't like them, and da da da, and if you're not there yet, you're kind of overlooked because everybody want to win now. Everybody wants it right away. So there's not really a space for some kids who would be Dennis Rodmans or Vernette Skeete or who needed the development because they didn't have the training. I came up in an era where I had the ability, I just didn't have the basketball teaching. I was just playing because I was up and down and I was athletic and I could do some things naturally. It took me really getting to college to like learn basketball, to understand the dynamics of having everything that you need on the court, because out of the difference of it was players around me that could do the same thing. And so now it wasn't just speed. I remember the first time calling home to my mom, and I was like, Mama, this post player is running a mile faster than me. I was like, I had never been behind at anything in life.
Right.
Like I do, like I'm success. Like, I couldn't beat her. I
Wow.
could not be, and like it would, and I'm in there, like I'm really like my mom was giving me scriptures to like I bring my body under. I never beat her, And one day I kind of got really, really close, and it was a celebration for me, But
Wow.
I probably almost died in that mile. So, the complexity of you have to get with the right program. I coached AAU for a while under the legendary coach Kimberly Davis Powell of Essence, and programs like that do it right because there's so many different stages in every kid. Like she travels from all across the state and does combines, and 3-day practices and different things. So the kids are training. Some of these, like now they get to the tournament, they put on a jersey and they just playing, and they're playing 3 games, and they're playing maybe, I say 3, but it may be 4 or 5 games in a day.
Right. Correct. Correct.
I'm Subway and chips, and so it's it's different because it used to be more practice based to play, and now everything is kind of drifting around just the game, and if you don't like the results of the game, they're trying to change your team, or the player is leaving to a place where their parents could be more happy, they could get more, and the dynamic of what it is changing. What a lot of people are going to is training, and that's them. Even a lot of the pros, you talk about Steph Curry, and he said like they literally said, no, we're not going to let you play right now. You're going to train this summer, get your skill set better, and then you're going to play, so you're not reinforcing bad habits, when you still haven't developed the right one. So it's a blend of both. I think you got to find what best suits you, what best, because obviously you got to have experience on the court. You can't take that away, but I think you've got to find the right situation and make sure that, there's present programs like, Essence out there that are truly designed and not just that, there are a ton of good programs out there that do it from the grassroots, that want to help build people and get them better,
All right. So I asked this question for the parent or the young student athlete, maybe middle school, going into high school, young athlete that may get an opportunity to see the show. What are some things away from the travel sports, like they can take in the responsibility themselves? What are some things they can do to really practice the fundamentals of the game to really build their game?
I would say this too is what we didn't talk about is get a notebook, right? Because I have very young kids, but my kids are gonna have to prove to me that they want these things, right? And so it's like studying for anything. How do you study basketball? What are you trying? Like, I want to know that when you're in the gym, you're actually learning to perceive. And if you're watching again, what did you learn? Why does that shot good? Why was that a bad shot? And it should be notes. You should have a dialogue. What do you need to work on? What was some things coming out of your game that, like, how is it? Because sometimes you better than that. Mm-hmm. That's not coaching. That's not teaching. Rebound.
Right.
Make the shot. Well, they weren't trying to miss, coach. But, what are the tools that help them get? Because if we're just screaming at them and we're like, go harder, it's not that they're not going hard. We've got to truly give them tools to assist. Hey, do you know the square on the backboard is a good target point to aim from? Are your eyes open? Open your eyes. Stop being. Are you afraid of contact? All right, well then come in here and we will leave tomorrow. You're gonna do 10 layups, with contact after every game for everyone you miss. Like, give plausible tools to fix it. Saying, go harder, you better than that. Act like you my son. Act like you like that's not coaching. So if that's all we're gonna be able to bring to the table, we need to just let them have fun. I think that we've got to educate ourselves to educate them. Sometimes you see these people, like winning is important. You don't want a society built on, everybody get a ribbon, because that's not real in our lives when we leave, especially people who don't have the majority of the popular or successful color skin.
Right.
I think that we always have to talk to persevere, and sometimes we've got to grow through the concrete. So we do have to be teaching toughness, but how? And I think sometimes we spend a ton of money on trying to make our kids look good, or trying to give them everything, and we're not giving the lessons, or we're not showcasing the sacrifice. To think about me and my brother, like my mother kept us really well dressed for our economic standards. But we were very aware of the sacrifice that she was making when she was doing those things. And so because of that, we did not let her fail till we got to a point where we could give her back in pride and joy and money and hope, to reward her for those sacrifices. And we're not doing that. And that's why these kids in this generation don't really understand. So like, you got to have a why you're doing this thing. You got to make sure that you're surrounding your children with the best tools to win. And it's okay to be passionate, and it's okay to want it for your child. But if you don't possess the skill set, or you're not surrounding them with the skill set to get better in the things that they're struggling with, and you're just like clamoring and clawing and screaming at them, that's not, you don't want kids that only know how to operate in fear, and in distress, because you can't think as well in those environments at all times. And so you elite people manage to calm the world down in that space, and really be able to dial into their mental capacity. And that's what you want the game to be. So you want more IQ at the younger level. Your body and your athleticism and your strength is going to improve, but your IQ could be grown at all times when it comes to the game. And you got to be around a program or people, or you teaching why we're doing these things. Why? What does the block mean? The block is just not a placeholder for the post. It's not, it's not like, no, the block is actually a cue on the court. It's the best angle, the easiest angle to drive from the wing and make a layup. Basketball is geometry. It's like, it's all about angles. It's mathematics. Like, there's a spacing on the floor. And so because we've integrated more athleticism into the game, we've forgotten to take the IQ, because remember, the game started without a backboard. And so you would move around on different areas to see what was your percentage of making certain angles easier, like making the shot more, and what angles, and these things were on the floor to help kind of guide you to what the best angle would be. And because we can do some of these things a little naturally, we don't teach basketball in that aspect anymore, which we've really limited the game. And if you ever hear an elite person talk about what they do, Kyrie Irving and the way he shoots off the glass, Dennis Rodman and the way he rebounded, they just took time and perfected their angles and learned where the ball would fall from different spots. Because it's the same thing every time. But we just want to hope it in there, because we don't want to take the time to really get familiar and shoot enough shots so that it's habit. And you almost know, if I get it here, it's going to go there, it's going to go. How many different angles off the glass and different spots can I get to that can make the shot go in? So that those are the things, and I know that was a lot, but those are the things that, like, we try to teach. Is just, my life process has taught me, and the Holy Spirit, that basketball is a game of sharpness, and you want to be around things that help you get sharp. So
that's great information you offer. Even as you touched on real quick, the piece on Kyrie, I was able to see some videos where he talked about they show videos on how he does in his practice sessions, shooting the ball and laying it up off of different areas on the backboard. And like you see with him practicing it like that, it looks so much easier to him in a game, because he does it so much in practice. So you offered a great deal of information in that. I wish every student athlete I come in connection to, I can connect them and send them there to Houston with you, because it's just good to know that we have coaches that are teaching fundamentals and really stepping outside of just, taking someone with athleticism and not really growing their game. Because if it doesn't hurt them on the college level, it's going to hurt them if they're able to go to the next level. And so it's so important that we have coaches like yourself. So I appreciate what you're doing with the young ladies that God is blessing you to come in contact with. I just thank you for what you're doing on that end.
No problem. Thank God. Thank God. We are all servants.
That's
I'm just
good.
glad I get to do something I love. Yeah.
That's good. And so I asked you, we'll end real quick, just your college career. What did you go on to play after playing at the 2-year school?
To Alcorn State University, which is in Mississippi. And it also is an HBCU like I am. And I also played for legendary Shirley Walker, which is why I made the decision that I made, because being, seeing that lady in conference, I had a few smaller offers at other places, Mercyhurst and, Florida Gulf Coast. But I decided to go there because she looked like me.
Okay.
And it was a shock. And then she talked to me. I went sight unseen. I was ready to sign to another place. And, I had prayed that night. And I said, God, because I knew I was leaving my family. I hadn't been that far away from home because the JUCO I went to was just 45 minutes up the road. And I said, Lord, send me where you could use me the most. And I'm talking about, like, this is when you had to put the signs in the mail, and you had to send it off. It had to be stamped. You couldn't just fax it and all of that kind of, And so I was about to sign out. It was sitting in, I think I had signed one page of it, and it was sitting there waiting to be mailed. And, she called out and she said, hey, have you signed yet? She said, well, wait a minute. Don't, and she just, and I said, yes, on the spot. She sold it to me. And so it was quite a unique experience. And we obviously went on to win a SWAC championship there too. And I've been blessed to say, I've won at every level. I've been a player and coach at some type of championship. And I think, with the blessing of God, winners win and competitors compete. And I've been blessed to do that. So I'm really, really grateful for that experience. And literally my senior year from there, 5 days before graduation, my old high school coach called me and he said, hey, I saw you in the national championship game, with the NCAA tournament, because I think we did play Michigan. And he was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. And we would love it. He had transitioned into being assistant principal. And so he asked me to come back, and that's how I got my coaching start. And I said, well, let me think about it. Because at that point I was like, I didn't want to play. But I ended up, staying. Yeah.
That's good. So I asked, for the young athlete, what are some things from a coaching standpoint you tell a young athlete they should look for when choosing the right fit for them? Again, my goal is to encourage the young athlete to be a whole person when the sport is done with, because we will not play forever. And I think just in my crossing and mentoring, I've had so many young athletes where their careers are over with, whether it's on high school, college level. They then don't know what to do with themselves. So I ask you, from a coaching standpoint, what do you tell a young person that you may have the opportunity in life to connect with? What are some things they should look at before deciding to play on the college level in the school that they're looking to continue their career at?
I think it really, I think the problem is that we aren't honest with ourselves. We don't look internally. We let college coaches sell us dreams, and it could be real or it could be fake. A college coach shouldn't tell you what's best for you. Like, you have to know what's best for you. And you got to figure out, one, what's the environment socially that I can survive in? Do I need to be off in the middle of nowhere? Do I need a big city? Because that's what I'm used to. The quiet is too, it's alarming to me. And I know sometimes we don't always have a choice in the opportunities that we get. But as much as possible, when you do have a choice, you've got to try to find an environment that you can be successful in. And you got to get away from what mama thinking, AAU coach thinking, and just really know what do I need for success? What do I want? What feeds? And we don't talk about that as a society with our youth in the most important spot of their lives, because they're going away from everybody who is helping them make these decisions, and they're going to be there alone for 4 years. But then we haven't really taught them how to make decisions, because we have been telling them this whole time what they should feel and what's best for them. And do they know what will allow them to survive? My goal for my kids when they get to college, that they can make decisions for them whether I'm around or not. Like, I'm raising them for that now, because tomorrow is not promised for anybody, right? So my goal is to make sure that they are in control of what is successful to them. And because we are all individual and God works with all of us differently, as a mother, my job is to get them to God, and then God is supposed to help them figure it out, because what worked for me may not work for them. And distractions that might have distracted me may not even distract them. But some things that I might not even thought about may be attacking them. So it's really trying to figure out what it is that you need individually, because it doesn't matter where you go if you can succeed. That is the difference. We put too much hype on the popularity of places, especially in women's sport, versus, do they have an individual plan of success for me? And am I going to be the best? If is this environment going to give me the best opportunity to pursue the goals that I want? And when I don't succeed in this goal that I may possibly want athletically, socially, emotionally, and academically, am I still going to be fine? And those are the things, if you go to a coach who ain't going to speak to you, if you don't score over 10 points a game and that bothers you, you need to know that because there are a lot of coaches who will not. If you need a coach that needs to push you and you can't, because you on your own as a slack and your mom and daddy been on you every day and you need that, you can't come in there to somebody that want to be your friend. So you got to really know what and you got to shift through the car salesmanship, because every coach is selling the car. Hey, my school is like, at the end of the day, a degree from college is a degree from college. If it ain't the Ivy League, it's all equal. Yeah, I mean, just like we make it's what you learn. It's what you learn. It's what you put in here. You know what I mean? Just because you went to Harvard and you got a degree does not necessarily mean that you may be smarter than me in a subject if I've applied myself harder. Now, your degree may be worked properly more than mine, but your mind does not have to be. Your mind does not have to be. And so when you are learning to control whatever element that you can, it doesn't matter where you really go or what you do, because it's what keeps you motivated.
That's good.
Get there more.
That's good. So you go on from Alcorn. At what point do you make the decision to move on into coaching?
Yeah, my coach, he called 5 days before my graduation and he was like, hey, do you want to coach at the job? So I go back to my high school and I start there. I think I was, might have been 22, 23, because I finished early. And I couldn't even rent a car at that point, I remember. But I was the head coach of my high school, and we went on to go to the state champion. I mean, I remember the first game of the season, we played a team in our conference in a tournament, and we lost by I think 30-something points. And we came back by the end of the year and won by 8. So it was equivalent to like a 40-point swing within a year. And we went on to the state championship and to the regional finals. And we lost in the regional finals that year to a very star-studded team. And they went on to win the state championship. And the next year we went to the state championship. And lost by 1 point off a buzzer beater. So, but we ended up continue to have success moving from there. And then I went from there to coach of the year at JUCO and AAU. And then I went to the University of Miami where Katie Meyer gave me my first collegiate basketball start, which I'm forever grateful for. Our story is actually really interesting in how we met. I was an AAU coach down there, and she had a new coordinator. And she basically, he messed up because the way the standards were rating, he didn't really understand how the AAU world and all of that worked. So he had the two best teams play each other at like 8 o'clock in the morning in the tournament. And then everybody else was playing later. And so literally like we played each other. It was the best game, the very first game of the tournament. And so then we were both in two different practice. And so either way, we lost that game. And some of my parents had been late because the schedule didn't come out to really, really late, like at midnight. And so some of them had went to sleep. It was like a real cluster. So I started the game with like not like three of my starters. And I didn't blame the kid because we all had just kind of found out we were all just rushing to the gym. And my parents, oh, my parents went off. I mean, they were going crazy. They was, I ain't never seen these teams should meet in the finals. They got the best record to get out. And so then, Coach Meyer being just such a diplomat and like just a wonderful, know how to soothe things and make things work. She came and she's trying to apologize to me. And I said, because I think we lost by like a free throw at the end of the game. Wow. And my kid actually missed the free throws. So we would have won had she made, but she missed both of them. I still remember that. And she comes to me and she's trying to apologize. So now the rest of the tournament's just trash. Like we're both beating everybody else in the, so we went to the lower bracket. They went to the championship bracket. They beat everybody by 40. We beat everybody by 40. It was just like, Wow. And so Paris is just annoyed right now. And so she comes up and she's trying to apologize. And I said, Coach, I mean, at the end of the day, like we should have won. Like that's not your fault. Like it doesn't matter how it got set up ultimately. And she just really respected my statement from that. And she had a position coming up and she just remembered me from that. And she was like, I need that on my staff. I need somebody with fire. I need somebody for my kids. And in reality, she was a woman saying, I need somebody like you that look like my kids and I want them to be that successful. And she cared enough to bring me in for her players to have enough, and I that kind of level of understanding and respect and care. I will, she could do no wrong in my eyes ever.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So from Miami, you went on, your resume continues. Talk about all the schools that you went to leading to getting to where you're at the awesome Texas Southern.
So then I went on, my mom ended up being diagnosed with breast cancer and I went home. It just kind of worked out that my head coach at my junior college was retiring. And so I ended up replacing her, long story short, and I was closer home because remember I said I was only 45 minutes away from home. So I got to spend, 2.5 years there with my mom as she passed, being close to home. And so from there, I ended up going to Marquette, which one of the assistants that we got really closer down in Miami, it was her alma mater. So at this point, I've been placing out my alma maters, right? And so I went to all my schools. And so now it was her alma mater, and she called me and she's like, "Hey, we could do so many great things. I'd love to, help me kind of come up there and transition and change the world." And so we went up there, and I was there for about 6 years, and I stayed another year after she went to Penn State because I had just had a child. And then I went on to the University of Illinois, and from there I went down to work with the legendary Gary Blair. I've had a ton of legends in my career, really grateful for them. And I was associate head coach down there at Texas A&M. And from there, the president that was at TSU was a Texas A&M alumni. So it worked out really, really well. God really created a path for me, and I've been here since. Blessed.
Wow. So what is the highlight for you as a coach when you're able to, you're not playing the game now, but you're able to pour into other young people? What are the things that you really look forward to as you connect with these players?
We have a theme here called Crowns On, and God kind of gave that to me one day in the middle of the night. Um, I was struggling with reaching some of my players when I took on the head coaching spot, and he was like, "They don't know who they are," and they this whole gambit of things in life right now, it kind of takes you away and tries to make you feel less than. And so Crowns On came to me. And so, I went and bought all my kids little pageant crowns. I probably got one in the office, and so we wear these crowns. It's crowns on. So we do this right here. This is our. And I'm like, hey, get your crown on. Lift your head up. And so that's the biggest part of me, that I didn't look at this as just competitive for me. I'm very grateful that I have won on every level prior as a player and a coach. So I don't coach now at the head coach as if I'm being embarrassed, or if I'm moved. Like, I literally get to coach for them, to create an experience for them. This journey is free. And I don't think a lot of kids get that opportunity, because, losing a game could make you feel like you're less than anything. And me, I'm always like, we lost the game. You didn't do what you were supposed to do, but keep your crown on. And so it's the ability that I can lay down at night saying, I expand my capacity every day. I give everything I got. I let it out. I don't have nothing. My mom used to tell me, you can't die with more love left to give. I give it all, and I'm confident in that, and I'm also grateful and at peace, because I also know it's just my job to water in this moment. It is God whose footprints is in the sand. He's carrying them. So it doesn't also have to be me. So I don't have to be frustrated anymore when I don't see success right away, because seeds all are different and they take a different time and process of growth. But what I'm teaching is resilience. What I'm teaching is kingdom based. And I know that I do my best to be pleased with God. And so, even though I'm being competitive, I feel like I get an opportunity to teach more in life than just basketball. My kids are honorees. I just came from my honors convocation today, and I had a kid with a double 4.0, which is almost like you know what I mean? Like, and so, these are the things that I'm grateful for. I have been raised, and I've had the experience, and God has ministered in my life enough that I can find joy in these moments, and it can be authentic, and I can have peace in this, and I get to really just love it and love the experience that I'm getting with them. So, yeah, I'm grateful. That's the
That's
most.
good. I think it's so awesome. It's a joy in just hearing you just talk about your relationship with your players. It's the coach that, in my personal little world here in North Carolina, I wish every student athlete was blessed to have coaches on every level and in every state, in every area, with the heart like yours, because that is my heart, even with the platform. Just really seeing our people achieve their greatness, even in life, beyond the sport, beyond what they're doing in the game, achieve their best and what God has for them in life. And so I think it's awesome. I told someone recently, I was talking about the different things that keeps me motivated in continuing the episodes. Is I reached out to someone in another state, someone connected me to someone that they said had been in AAU ball for years. So when I reached out to the gentleman, we talked a couple of times, and I think the last conversation, he said, "So what are you looking for in some guests?" And so I told him, I said, I want somebody that's doing good in the sport. That'd be cool. I said, however, I'm looking for a young person that's doing something beyond the sport. Whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in life. They're doing something beyond just the sport. Like, I don't want you to send me an athlete that may be awesome on the court and they're getting, failing all their classes. They're getting in trouble every day. Like, I need somebody that represent outside. It can be even their character. You have an athlete that has an awesome character, that's helping others, that's doing things in the community, so on and so on. And what hurt me was to hear this person that was introduced to me as being someone that's been in the AAU game for years in this state. And that coach said to me, he said, "Well," he said, "Whoo." He said, "I got plenty of good players for you." He said, but somebody that's doing good outside of the game, he said, I don't know. And that was our last conversation. Because what hurt me was that if you have this impact, that was how you was introduced to me. And if you have that impact and you have that connection to the game, not just in a town, but in your state and in your area, it's sad that you're not pouring more into these kids, that they're focusing on life outside of the game. And so that becomes disheartening that these are the people that's pouring into our kids across the country. And I think that's why it's so easy to see the young athlete who we see them on every chart, but then they get into the NFL, don't know how to manage their money, don't know how to be a husband, the female, on a professional level, doesn't know how to be a wife, doesn't know how to be you name it. They don't have a clue because nobody worried about their life outside of the sport.
And it's unfortunate because in my generation growing up, it always used to be, well, basketball taught us how to live. It taught us how, and businesses and CEOs, they would always come look for athletes because athletes knew how to have teamwork. They knew how to work hard. They knew how to tackle. They knew how to have a goal and pursue it more than some people who would just regularly went through life, and now we as family members, as parents, as cousins, uncles, whatever, loved ones, we don't demand those things anymore because they're not as important as our value as in what we can get. And now we put more emphasis, we idolize tangible things,
Right.
Yeezys and Gucci and Prada and Louis and
Right.
Ferraris and so it's more, how can you get to that? And I want you to be able to get my kid to that before teaching them life lessons. That's no longer a demand that we put, because when we put that demand on people and we sent them to these coaches, we expect them to make them men or make them women, and now that's not it's not a thing anymore, and it's a turn in where our society is at, and we've got to learn to say those things are nice, but don't come back home without character.
Right. That's good. So the young athlete who leaves home, like you said, may have never, been outside of their neighborhood throughout their youth, and they go on to college. What do you say as a coach to them, and really finding a way to focus and balance? Because certain young kids get to college and they're there for sport, they're there for an education, but then they see a life and a freedom that they've never had before. What is it that you say to a young person to really get them to zone in on their focus on what they're there for? And that's ultimately the education first. But what do you give as words of encouragement to get that player to not, really, some of them just totally go off track because they lose focus, don't have that parent there in their life? What are some things you say to your players?
You know, the Bible says it's simple: train up a child in the way she should go. I see all these pack the trunk things, and you get all these supplies ready, and get the kid ready to go out to college, and you rarely see the Bible. Give them the Bible, give them the word, because that's the only thing that can save them. Cover them, cover them so that they carry a spirit of wisdom and discernment to avoid danger, because danger is going to be there, trouble is going to be there. It's not, and some they need to get in to learn to navigate. Because I used to tell my mom when I was young, I said, well, Mom, I can't tell my kids not to do something because you said don't do it. Just like you say, some things we have to go through to learn to appreciate grace and love and forgiveness. But there's nothing more important than the word of God. I mean, because see, we've got to get back. Success is principle based, right? And what do I mean by that? It's, you're not result based, because if you only want to be successful, if you only want to be rich, you'll do things to compromise your character and your integrity to get success or get rich, or you will only see that and you won't be focused. But if you're principle based, okay, so what's the principle? Hard work, focus, good character, do what I'm supposed to do, integrity. See, like, you're going to attract success regardless if you're principle based, but if you're result based, you're going to compromise whatever it takes, and you're going to want shortcuts just to get that. And if you do those things, you're also going to attract bad character things in your life. So I would say the best thing for a student athlete is, even there's no excuse. The one thing you have to realize, like, it's not your pastor, it's not your mom, it's not your dad. Like, we all individually will be held accountable for our relationship with whoever you think created you. Because yeah, you're gonna have to be accountable for what you're supposed to do. If a tree doesn't bear fruit, what does the Lord do? He curses it. It's just like, you have to be held accountable. So if you don't have it and your parents didn't give it to you, then you've got to take it. You've got to find it. And to me, people like, oh, it don't, there's a lot of people who do dismiss it and say it's too much. But like, have you tried it? And nobody that has tried it wholeheartedly and sincerely has a negative result. Don't have peace, don't have love. So to me, it's the same thing with my players when they come in here and they're like, oh man, yeah. I said, well, did you try what I asked you to do to get in the gym? Well, no. Well, did you try what I asked you to do? Because if you try what I have set up for you to do and you're failing, then that's a whole nother case. But if you failing, don't pretend to be pouting and you ain't tried what I asked you to do. Because he's the only way in the truth. So my biggest thing to them is like, cut the fuck. You don't gotta have a bullhorn on the top of the road screaming to the mountain, Hosanna, Hosanna. But you gotta have some base of God, so that when things get hard and you know how to pray, you know how to get on your knees, you know how to ask God to protect you from some seeming dangers that you can't see or can't see. Because truly, that is really the only way to be success. And if you're being success, if you're doing those things, then you're going to be principle based. You're going to do the hard work. You're going to do the integrity, all of it, because that's the recipe in the Bible. So I don't know no other way to be successful, and I don't teach anything else. And I'm not the only way.
Right.
There are a lot of successful people who aren't good people.
Right.
So that's why you can't just chase success. Because there's also a lot of successful people who are miserable on the inside and don't want to live anymore and have so many demons that are taunting them, but they didn't do it the right way. They just cut the corner. So we've got to get away from thinking that success is the only thing that we should be. You chase the principle, chase the discipline.
That's good. That's so good. And it's awesome. And I thank God for having guests like Coach Skeete, because anyone that knows me know ultimately my goal is just who I am and my faith, and about my representation for the kingdom. And so to have a guest that is just that is number one for her is always awesome, because I don't hide it when I'm able to talk to young people. One of the is the acronym that I give in some groups that I talk to. And two of the things you just touched on in talking, one is just identity and knowing who we are. The last of the acronym, but I believe first in the process, is your foundation. And I always tell them, first thing I tell in the groups that I talk to, that hey, my foundation is my faith in God. And if I don't have that, I think everything else is shaky from there. If you start a building that doesn't have a good foundation, you're in trouble. Eventually, like you said, you can build it to the highest heights, but if the foundation isn't what it's supposed to be, it's coming down. It's coming down. And so I think it's important that your foundation first is your faith. And it's awesome to just hear you say, you even say that to your players. Hey, well, did you try what I gave to you? You can keep coming to me, right. But if you're gonna keep coming to me with doing it your way, then I can't help you. I'm giving you the foundation.
Right, because it's like, you get in the game and you see some of those kids crying. Wait, now everybody wouldn't be crying if everybody was working. It's just right. Impossible. It's not right. Even like, if everybody is putting in the work, then the work is gonna be there. It's like the bank. Well, if you putting money in the bank, you ain't gotta worry about your card swiping. If you kind of in there, somebody came out, I ain't really had it now. I was balling the other day, I got slacked up. You got to be nervous in there. You in there trembling, like,
right.
Money don't decline when you're doing it the right way.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
So I thank you, Coach Skeete, for the awesome information that you have offered. We can go on for hours because that is my goal, just to provide information for our young athletes beyond the game. And I believe when you have the right foundation, you everything else is taken care of. You know, we know the word says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness." And there's so many other scriptures where if we just have our foundation right, we put God first, that covers everything. That covers everything. And so, in a nutshell, I think it's so awesome, you know, just the information you've been able to give. I want to end with my two questions I normally end with. First, why is it important for a young person to have positive people in their circle?
Because you need some people who are praying for you. You know, you need people who really truly have your best interest, because if you're the smartest person in that room all the time, then you just have yes men. You know, you just have yes men. You want people who can challenge you in a productive way and protect you. Um, it is important because it builds a sense of security and peace to know that you people have your back. You know, so I do think that is essential. You know, even the Bible say when two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst. You know, so you want people around you, because there's power in unity. But you know, here we have a thing, we call it the Tiger Way, and the T stands for togetherness. And I think that, without trying to get into a deeper level, it's really important for when you say positive people, you've got to know what their mission is. Like, we've got to be on the same page. You can't just like me. You can't just like, because if we go into the same thing and you trying to ball out so you could get the chicks and the drinks in the section, but I'm trying to get so I can feed my family. Like, we're not on the same mission, because you don't have, like, yeah, we want success, and success could blanket it, but your success looks different and your desire is different. So we're not on the same page. You've got to make sure that you have togetherness in your circle. You've got to make sure that everybody is on the exact same mission and the why. Because if you saying you doing this for your mama, but they over there doing this for the broads, it's not.
Not lining up.
The decisions that are going to be more towards one thing and the other, and y'all gonna be pulling, or it's gonna be, so the advice is not gonna be the same. You know, like, man, nah, let's go. You know, we gonna spend $1,000 a night to go to the club. Like, you're like, nah, I could have put that in the light bill for my mom. You know, it's bigger than just positive people, because that don't mean that that person is negative. They just have a different mission. They have a different perspective. They have different goals and desires than you, and that becomes the real agenda. You know, some people want you to be successful for their success. Man, yeah. You know, go get this money so I can get it from you, and then I can take the money and I can build what I want to build to be successful. You make it. Wait, you think that I'm supposed to work to fuel your dream, even though it's your dream, like, but you're not supposed to fuel your own dream. And that's a really big, you just got to make sure that you got people who would really still pull for you if you gave them nothing. And that the mission that you're on is something that they want to, because togetherness is really the only way to be successful. So
That's good. Great information. And our last question, I know you have a lot of work to do, but I could interview you for the next 2 hours, but I'm gonna let you get out of here with this last question. Who or what is it that inspires you most in life?
God, God. You know, I just came to the concept of understanding. Now, obviously, you know, my mom's legacy and my brother and my father, my children, those are all cliche things, but like, to understand that God was on the cross and he decided if you were left in the devil's possession, you wouldn't make it. And I love you enough to not let him do whatever his plan would have been for you, because we already out here in the world, and you know, you got haters, you got aggravators, you got all of this different stuff that really does put a toll on you every single day. But to understand that that ain't even the worst that really could have happened, and that God said in the end, I don't even want anybody to own you, possess you, to have control over your destiny, to make it harder than it need to be when I could save you, when you could come to me in the end. And he looked down and he said my name. He said Vernette. I can't. I struggle trying to do anything else. You know what I mean? And I really don't ever want to be in a place where I lose that as a perspective. That he really said, one stripe, that's for Vernette. Stripe, that was for Dia. Stripe, that was for Anthony. Like stripe, like, you know what I mean? Like, he literally said, I knew no sin, but I'm gonna take, and it makes the things of this world, trials and tribulations, a little bit bearable. Perspective, right? It makes it a little bit bearable. And I'm grateful for that. And that inspires me to try to make sure I'm leading, as a mother, as a wife, as a coach, I'm doing these things for his glory, because he didn't have to do that. He could have been like, yeah, I'll make another batch,
Wow.
And so I'm truly grateful. So that inspires me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so those that if this is your first episode you catch it or you've caught others, this interview makes it easy for me to say at the end, if you truly want to go out and up and be, great outside of the sport you're playing, you have to seek God first. And so if that is your foundation, everything else it's taken care of. And again, I think you touched it a little bit, but it's the misunderstanding sometimes that people have before they come to the faith, that life is supposed to be perfect afterwards. No, but there's a peace that you have when you're in his arms.
Yeah.
That even when you go through the things that will ultimately help to build you, because it says that all things are working together for the good. So it's building you up. And so it may not be a good moment, but if you allow him to be who he's supposed to be in your life, like, you'll see what he was building in you at some point. And so it is just knowing those things. And so I thank you again for joining us. We appreciate you being with us.
Well, I'm grateful. I'm glad. I'm excited. This is really good for me too, and just the reality of being able to speak on these platforms. And there's things that, just like this, that people are still trying to do the right thing and give people real principle-based information, not emotional, but principle-based, so that they have real tools. And it's like we're all doing just a little bit to leave some breadcrumbs behind, so
That's
that
right.
people will follow the trail. So I
That's
thank
good.
you for listening to God and creating a platform like this as such, because there may be a day that even the people who are strong may be down, and I may be able to look back on this and follow for more and get
That's good.
insight, because we're always achieving, and there's always time to get up and to get out and get up. So, thank you for you creating this space, especially for the young and the youth. To be able to grow and blossom. And this is truly God's work. And I pray that he continues to bless you.
That's good. That's good. So you all know I say it at the end of the show, and I'm gonna add a twist to it. But it is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in the life. And so we touched on it today. The way that you find that place of greatness in life, you have to have the right foundation. And so I challenge you to keep joining us, getting this awesome information that we're blessed to offer you all as we continue to go out and up. Thank you, and we'll see you next episode.